things that life is showing you. Where are you going to? Do you know? Here's an interesting song from the 70s with almost symphonic pretensions. It's grandiose with all its strings and stuff, and then there are these flipping key changes, and there's no getting away from the fact that this song changes key lots of times, and the key changes are not subtle. Whatever key you're in for the intro, you then move down 3 semitones for the verse, then the bridge is another 3 semitones lower, we switch between those, and then in the outro there's yet another key 3 semitones away again. So I've tried putting the capo in all sorts of places. I've plumped for this. The original song is in G flat and then the verse kicks off in E flat. I'm not going to do that. With the capo on the 3rd fret, I'm going to play the verse as if in C, so at least that works. And the verse is actually a fairly straightforward 4-bar affair. There's a couple of twists and turns there too. And then we've got this bridge in a separate key. We'll tackle the intro, which I've got in E flat, in a moment, and that's the least comfortable part of this. So for now, let's just look at the verse. We've got 4 beats in the bar. C for 2. Do you know? F for 2. Where you going to? And throughout the song, whenever you've got this melody, it's on the 3rd of the chord. So for C, that's the open top string. D minor 7 here. You could play it as an A minor 7 bar chord at the 5th fret, but I'm going to do that. Then there's E7 to A minor. That A minor stays there. I'm going to move my little finger down to the 3rd fret of the 5th string for C6, D minor 7 and E7 again, and we end up momentarily on A. Okay, that's the first part of the verse. The second part of the verse goes to A again, and then we kick off the bridge proper. So let's just have those 4 bars. Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? When we get those E7s, you could play those with flat 9s, flat 13s if you know those. The first one here. Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things? Now, I've got my first finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string, as you'd expect. But if I flatten that, so I'm taking in the 1st fret of the 2nd string, I've got a C in there. It's going to be E7 flat 13, which leads me very nicely into the A minor. So. Okay, as far as the picking goes for this song, I guess I'm going to try something like this, a standard Travis style pattern. I'll just give you an example on a C chord. I'll stick to the middle 4 strings, thumb on the 5th string, and I'm going to use my 1st and 2nd fingers. My 1st finger is going to be on the 3rd string, 2nd finger on the 2nd string, and it'll work like this. I'll play the thumb on the 5th string, then the 2nd finger plays the 2nd string. Then the thumb's going to come up to the 4th string, and my 1st finger's going to take over picking the 3rd string. So 5th string with the thumb, 2nd string with the 2nd finger, 4th string with the thumb, 3rd string with the 1st finger. And they're in 16th, so each beat da, 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 da-ka-tiki, 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 da-ka-tiki. That's a very standard Travis pattern. What brings it to life, though, gives it character, is if we don't play everything really automatically, whether you stick to those 4 strings or maybe you use your 3rd finger from time to time to pick out a note on the top string. That'll give it a bit more colour, but really it's about creating a bit of space with unexpected accents just by kind of almost dropping notes either side of the ones that you want to emphasise. You'll notice on that 2nd E7 there, I'm bringing my little finger down onto the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. because I'm landing on an A, and that D there, third fret of the second string, na, falls very nicely to the C sharp on the second fret of the second string. That's the third of that A chord. So that's the first verse, or the first half of the verse. Okay, so although we've got 4 beats in the bar, there are these odd time signatures that crop up, and we've got one of them here after the first 4 bars of the verse. It's a single beat of A. You could think of that as 1-4, but I've written 2-8. That just gives you a slightly easier way into counting. I'll show you what I mean. If we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and then we're off to the second half of the verse, or the second verse, whatever that is. I don't think the timing is exactly strict on the original recording. I think it just kind of pauses there. But it's not really more than 1 beat. So anyway, that's how that works. Second half of the verse is exactly the same. Do you get what you're hoping for? When you look behind you, there's no open door. What are you hoping for? Do you know where da 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 da? And we're into this bridge. There isn't another time signature change yet. There is at the end of the bridge. But one good thing about the capo being here is that we can easily play this A chord. Then the next chord is B over A. It's a very 70s move, and I'm just going to move that chord up there. And my bar is on the 2nd fret over the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings. I'm just going to move it up to the 4th fret. So we get this 2 beats each. Once we were standing. Now a bar of E with an F sharp rise at the end of it. Still in time for chasing the fantasies that fill our minds. Okay, and then we get a similar thing. You knew how I loved you, but now we get this. Spirit was free, G sharp minor 7. I'm playing that barring on the 4th fret, keeping the bar on the 4th fret for the C sharp minor. Now the same shape, 2 frets lower, F sharp minor 7. Laughing at the questions that you once asked of me. And again, we've got a funny time signature. This time it's 5-8, which in reality is 2.5 beats. But again, if we count it in 8ths, it's not so weird. Laughing at the questions that you once asked of me. It means that if you're counting in 8ths, you're going to get, for instance, 4 8ths on the F sharp minor 7, laughing at the, and 4 on the B7, da, dum, da, da. Then you're going to get 3 8ths on the E7 sus4, da, dum, 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 and 2 on the E7. That's the best way I have of explaining it. You might want to work with a metronome or just play along to the original song. Anyway, once we've got that, we go back and do another verse. So that's not so tricky. Let's just go from the bridge. Once we were standing still in time, chasing the fantasies that filled our minds. 3, 4. You knew how much I loved you, but my spirit was free. Laughing at the questions that you once asked of me. Da, 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 da. And we're back into the next verse. So, you know, it's a kind of mammoth affair, and maybe it pays, as usual, just to memorize bits of this. Play along with the original or my backing track in a while, and you'll see how we can navigate these various time signature shifts. Before we go on then, let's talk about the structure of the song. We've got this 2-part verse, this whole thing, 4 bars with this single beat bar of A in the middle, and then another 4 bars. I'm going to call that a verse. We've got that, and then we go to the bridge, as we've just seen. Then we do the whole thing again, the 2-part verse and the bridge again. The only difference is that this time, the second half of the verse, after that single beat bar of A, is instrumental. Otherwise, it's the same, but you can strum and pick that as normal, but there's no lyric there. Then we've got the bridge again. So 2-part verse, bridge, 2-part verse, bridge, and then again we get the 2-part verse, third time. This time we don't go to the bridge, we go to the outro. And the outro is a bit extra, I might say. If you're going to do this on an open mic, then good luck. But essentially what happens is the chord sequence for the verse, that 4-bar sequence, is played 3 times, and each time in a different new key. We have it in A, first of all. Then we have it in F sharp. And then we have it in E flat. And none of that is very guitar friendly. I mean, if we had an automatically moving capo or something, that would be a lot better, but we don't. So the final one, played in E flat, is actually the same as the intro because it ends on a C, which kicks the verse off, and that gives us some kind of resolution. And that's how the song ends, so maybe it makes sense to look at the intro first, then at least when we play the outro, that last bit of the outro won't be such a surprise. So let's look at the intro now. Okay, so we kick off with an E flat, no one's favourite chord, but there are a couple of obvious ways of playing that. There's a bar chord, an A-type bar chord on the 6th fret, barring on the 6th fret, and I've got all my bar shape on the 8th fret. That's a standard way of playing it. You could play a D chord and move that up a fret. You could even add a finger with a little finger there, that's on the 5th fret of the 4th string. That would work. You could try this. This is a C chord barred. I'm barring at the 3rd fret and then playing a C chord in front of it. That's not so easy to find. But how about this? If you play C and just move it up 3 frets, that's the same thing effectively without the bar. You have to avoid the top string. If you hit that top string, that's nasty. Okay, so as long as you're playing just the middle 4 strings, that'll work quite nicely. It's not the world's most colourful chord. The note on the open 3rd string is the same as the note there I've got on the 5th fret of the 4th string, but it works. Okay, for now it works, and we might go back to our barred version in a moment. We'll see that just a second. But if we play this for now, we are at least in the right place to play A flat here as an E-type bar chord on the 4th fret, down to F minus 7, which we've already seen in different places. Then I'm going to play this. G7 flat 13. You could play a straight G7 chord there, however you want to do that, but that gives us a little more warmth, almost a jazz style chord that takes us very nicely into the C minor. Now here's the thing. C minor leads us back to E flat, and if I play that C minor and then just lift the little finger up there, I'm actually playing that same E flat, that C shape barred at the 3rd fret. So finding it from scratch isn't very easy, but if you move from a C minor, which is actually quite easy to play, just moving that little finger down there to the 5th string, that's not so tricky at all. Then we've got F minus 7 and our G7. This time I'm going to play G7 flat 9, just to give us a bit more to think about. G7 flat 9. Again, this is very much a picked chord. We want to avoid playing the 5th string. So even though you're barring across all 6 strings there, you do want to make sure you don't play the 5th string there, because that doesn't work. And that takes us into the verse. Okay, so takes us into the verse. Okay, that is the intro done. Let's tack that on at the end of the outro, which we're going to look at now. Okay, finally then, the outro. We've just looked at the intro, which forms the basis of the last bit, but the first 2 bits we still need to look at. We begin with A, here it is, A to D, to B minus 7, C sharp 7. I'm going to play like a C7 moved up here. That's quite a straightforward way of playing that. Again, avoid the top string open there. To F sharp minor. You could play F minus 7, F sharp minor 7 if you like, but it's all the same thing. To A, B minor, C sharp 7. And if you wanted to shove that finger up a fret, the first finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, to the 3rd fret, or maybe even re-finger it like that. That's going to give you a flat 9. Either way, that's the end of that. That takes us into the F sharp bit. And now again, chords 1 to 4, chord 2, A sharp 7, you more commonly see that as B flat 7. You know, these sharps might make your head spin, but that's what's going on. And then we've got D sharp minor. Again, too many sharps. That's just E flat minor. Well, it's an A-type bar chord barred at the 6th fret. F sharp, G sharp minor, and A sharp 7. Okay, that leads us all into our E flat version. E flat, A flat, F sharp. We've already seen all this in the intro, so that's all there is. Our lovely E flat there, F minor, G7 flat 9 takes us down to C, and that finishes the song. So look, that's not very interesting, and I've gone through it quite quickly because, you know, it's just a question. Maybe pause the video, take it at your own speed. The last thing to say maybe is that as you finish the song, if you've got this G7 flat 9, you could do this linking from the intro to the verse as well. Maybe play your C with a note on the 3rd fret of the top string. That gives you that flat 9 goes there. It's a nice resolution. It means you don't get the melody note to kick you off for the verse, but if you if you can hit that confidently without having to play it, which I probably do, then it's quite nice to link those 2 chords that way. So the whole of the outro then. That ends the song. 1, 2, 3.